Serio finds a new way to have a case dismissed without trying at all. Chille DeCastro so intimidates police officers he has to play the encounter twice. 2020 doesn't change the game. None of my readers care about Karen Reed or Turtleboy. Plus, the market games have vanished quicker than Floyd, Wallace, and Denver Metro Audits. All this and more on this episode of Auditing Insanity. Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Auditing Insanity newscast. I'm Jim Finch and I'll be your host for 4 big stories on Chille DeCastro, Serio, Karen Reed, and a look at the ever-shrinking market. It's a new day and we've got some new features for YouTube channel members as I started posting early morning YouTube blogs to the channel this morning. The audio is pretty much unedited, just normalized and vocal enhanced, so you can barely figure out what accents I'm using at 3 a.m. Wait until you hear Henrietta. Oh yes, wait until you hear Henrietta. On that note, we're out of time again, so we'll ask you to focus on market gains disappear along with Wallace and DMA. Friday's GoFundMe take was the usual win for our ongoing expenses fund with a $35 take and nothing else happening in the market, making the stark disappearance of 2 prominent YouTubers stand out in recent days. Starting with Christopher Denver Metro Audits Cordova, who has gone radio silent this week following his breakdown/performance art/being too stoned to read appearance at the Inglewood City Council meeting this week. Cordova hasn't posted anything since Tuesday's appearance, leaving online speculation to fill in the blanks, with Frauditor Troll claiming that Cordova may have been too stoned to continue after words fell off the page or something. We're not speculating on that angle. Ours is that either Cordova is going to claim to have dyslexia and couldn't read off a paper due to stress in front of 30-something people watching him, even though he's read numerous times in the same situation without a problem, or, simply put, he staged the whole thing for clicks and views. He's recently completed his transformation into a Denver area sex expert by losing some weight, abandoning his glasses, getting his teeth fixed, and dumping longtime love interest and former auditor Sweet Tea. It looks like he's either reined back on or stopped producing his painful prank call show and is focusing on making himself look as impressive to potential partners as possible. In this scenario, his breakdown could be used to show his emotional vulnerability and willingness to overcome adversity, which would let him finally get in Regan Benson's Shuggy zones. Okay, moving on. YouTuber Floyd Wallace is also on the missing in action list. Floyd was supposed to be in Colombia last week. He was supposed to get his passport fixed. He was supposed to leave the country and be wallet deep and pay to play by now. Instead, no word from Wallace, no live streams, no community posts, no poorly produced scheduled videos. His News Now Omaha channel is getting an average of 2 videos a day every day, with occasional commentary by the YouTuber. However, in reality, there really isn't any way to tell when they were produced, as the content is taken from old audio videos and may be scheduled out months in advance. He had promised that he'd be up to his neck and pay for play by now, and he'd return to show his viewers the magic of propositioning a girl in another country for sex with his fat American wallet. If anyone can solve the mystery, please contact Pope Phil II immediately. On that note, if you'd like to keep me from disappearing like our 2 sex-obsessed subjects of this wonderful, family-friendly column, or if you'd like to continue to force me to keep writing this dreadful column each day, we do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. DeCastro intimidates police in new audit. Friday saw some blessed relief from Jose Chille DeCastro's insipid daily 3+ hours live streams as the YouTuber went dark for the day, instead leaving a love note to his viewers in the form of a new auditing video. The clumsily edited video featured DeCastro approaching a group of police officers gathered in the parking lot outside of First Citizens Bank in Huntington Beach, California. He asked the group of 6 or 7 officers if he can ask them a question. Then he asked them what the cause of the gap between citizens and police officers is. When none of the police officers reply, he then asked them if replacing handcuffing someone with putting one cuff on and the other cuff attached to an Apple AirTag would be a better way to restrain someone. At that point, one officer says that they were attempting to have a briefing and they all have to go to work now. DeCastro, not getting it, persists with questioning, following one officer to his car. The officer explained that they thought he had a quick question, not an extended question on policing, and explained that they all needed to get out on the street. When asked if he was worried about being recorded, the officer said it was no worry at all, as all of his actions were recorded with his body cam. DeCastro then complained that the public doesn't have access to those recordings, so they were useless. As all of the officers pulled out of the parking lot, DeCastro decided that they were scurrying from his camera. This is where things get bizarre. Future Chille, from his studio in Vegas or California or wherever, appears on screen and says that the camera is the Raid bug spray to police, and then begins to go through the video in slow motion. He shows that he asked the gathered police officers if he could ask a question, and one said that he could. Then he mocks the police officer for not liking what he had asked, resulting in their alleged scurrying off. DeCastro aired multiple mini commercials for his 5A cop card to pad out the video to 8 minutes to make it eligible for YouTube advertising, and called it a night with the laziest DeCastro video ever. Charlie the dog was not injured in the filming of this video. Karen Reed 2020 story gets mixed reaction. ABC's 2020 aired a segment on accused murderer Karen Reed last night that has drawn diverse reactions on Twitter this morning, despite initial hype as being a game changer by Aiden Turtleboy Kearney. In retrospect, Kearney has changed his story a bit, retweeting his lawyer's take on the matter. For what it's worth, having been involved in these types of shows, what you saw last night on 2020 was pretty standard. These are always fly-by-night productions and are meant for casual viewers. They never really get deep into the weeds. They often will feature relatives and supporters you've never heard of, or who may not be relevant to the legal proceedings. Having said that, it wasn't produced or edited very well, almost certainly confusing for a casual viewer, and they clearly avoided getting too much into the specifics of the defense theory. And although they did a late edit to include the recent standouts, the public should have been advised that the same DA's office, same local police department, and same state police are under attack for the atrocious Birchmore investigation. I think the casual viewers should have been made aware of that if you are going to address a lack of trust in the local authorities. Kate Peter reminded her followers who the real victims are in the case. This photo has been provided to me by the loved ones of John O'Keefe, with the request that we flood social media with his image. He is the victim. Just him, not Karen Reed, with her hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations from gullible trash people that fund her expensive dinners, hotel stays, tailored suits, and beauty services. He left this earth too soon, and if that wasn't painful enough for those he left behind, the harassment, disparagement, threats, and intimidation attempts ordered by Karen and carried out by a blogger and his mob certainly are. This is about justice for John only. If they get away with doing this to him and his family, you and yours could be next. Yellow Cottage Tales chimed in. Why did Karen try to say John's mom was already looking at her though she was guilty? I can explain. Karen called Paul and asked to come over to see the kids. but in the time she was there, she paid them no attention. She was present when 11-year-old Patrick came home and was told about John. Everyone tried to console the distraught boy, except Karen, who stood there watching without emotion. That's a story that will later be told, as Karen is getting ahead of it, as usual, with a lie. And the lie is demonstrated in the 2020 episode tonight, so that even if you know nothing else about the case, you can reason it through. Ready? Karen says in the 2020 that Peg made her uncomfortable because Karen knew she didn't hit John, but she felt the family thought this because of the broken taillight. However, Karen herself thought she struck John at the time. She still thought it 3 days later when she was arraigned. You can see Annette telling the court that his client had no intent because she loved John. But note that he does not say his client didn't do that, which he absolutely would have if Karen told him she never hit John, even if he didn't himself believe it at the time. If his client told him she was factually innocent and did not hit John, he would have had to tell the court that. He did not. That alone does not mean Karen is guilty, it just means she's lying to the audience. Note that she is no longer saying, as she did last summer, that she texted and called John while waiting for him, because she has now seen the phone logs and she knows that's not true. Did you catch that, Pink Army? Do I have to do all the work for you? We'll continue to monitor the reactions to the controversial 2020 episode as we see them. Serio fumbles and latest Klein audio. Klein returned to YouTube on Friday with a new court audio featuring Glenn Serio, this time of an early August small claims court hearing involving Serio's accusation against an Edmonds, Washington police officer. Serio noted on the audio that the police officer, Andy Meal, who briefly detained Serio in a 2023 incident where Serio was a suspect of shoplifting, was not in court and demanded a default judgment. The judge refused to do so as he was puzzled if Serio had done all the steps to actually move the case forward. Unlike the judge in the Mukilteo lawsuits, who threw the entire case out because small claims court was not the proper venue for Serio's accusations, the judge seemed to think Serio could move forward with the suit at some point, but had missed vital elements. The judge explained to Serio that since the officer was an employee of the city of Edmonds, Serio was, in fact, suing the city and not the officer. After pondering the statement, Serio pointed out he had served the mayor of Edmonds and the police chief, and that he had taken video of the service. Serio confirmed that his father, Glenn Serio Sr., acted as his process server, which explained the judge's questioning of the signature of the process server, who used the same name as Serio. Because Serio was suing the city, the judge eventually led Serio through the process that included filing a claim notice with the Office of Risk Management at least 30 days before filing suit. Serio reluctantly agreed to this as the judge dismissed his case and told him he could try to file it again once conditions were met. Klein, who herself is facing a lawsuit from Serio in small claims court, wondered in the ReallyCoolNews Auditing Insanity newscast side chat Friday night if the judge will rule the same in an upcoming hearing involving Everett police worker Erica Bennett, who Serio is suing for writing a police bulletin several years ago on Serio. Serio is suing Klein for distributing an unredacted copy of the bulletin that contained Serio's social security number and driver's license number. Serio claims that his data may be subject to use by identity thieves based on this leaked info. Both the Bennett hearing and Klein's hearing are on September 24, 2024. Corrections, a previous version of the story had used the towns Everett for Edmonds and Tukwila for Mukilteo. This is a Jim mistake and is now corrected. He apologizes for a screw-up and promises he will do better. And we're back. We may or may not have a broadcast tomorrow, depending on how much we get done before football season takes us away. If we have enough stories for a newscast, we'll do one. If not, we'll catch up on Monday. That said, Week in Review will go out at noon Eastern for all the stories you missed over the week in one place. So on that note, have a great evening, and go team!